Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today I'm going to be doing a book review of Sorcerer to the Crown written by Zen Cho. This was first published in 2015. This is a fantasy novel and it is alternative history. And it does have a sequel out, and I believe there will be a third book out in 2021. So first of all, I'll talk a little bit about the world the book inhabits. So this is alternative history England, specifically Regency era England, and it focuses around London. Frankly, Regency era England tends to be nearly always focused around London. This is no exception to that. This obviously has the addition, considering the title, of magic in this world. Magic is obviously a rare resource. Only certain people who have an innate talent for magic can actually perform magic, and obviously they need training. Therefore, magicians, what they call the magic users of this world, are a rare commodity. As a result, they tend to be classed as quite important. Due to this obviously required training and the importance of them, this tends to be upper class, or at least upper middle class people that tends to be magic users, which is dealt with in the book and I'll talk about later. So this creates that sort of upper class Regency era society, which is delved into and talked about and described in detail. Not too much, but just enough for you to get that interesting taste of what this life and this world is like, which I really enjoyed. So magic exists, and the reason it exists is because fairies also exist in this world. There is indeed an area called Fairyland where the fairies live. It is a very sort of secretive area. Normal people, non-magical people, cannot normally find it. They sort of wander away if they go near it. Magic users, human magic users that is, can go there, but there's always some slight issues there that fairies don't really have any need to interact with humans, because frankly we don't have anything they want, and frankly fairies don't have anything that we can really trade for, so there's not really much interaction between us. However, our magic in the human world does come from the fairyland itself, so they are important to us, and indeed that's where the plot originates from, because the main character of the novel is a man called Zacharias White. He is a new royal sorcerer, and he's got the unique and rather debatable position to be the first ever sorcerer royal who is a black African. Yes, so you have a heavily white upper class society, and suddenly the major magician user is a black man. Yes, this is problematic to say the least, because of course racism does come up in the book and is dealt with, which I'll talk about later. So this is problematic. He does cope with it well. I mean, his position affords him more leeway and frankly more sort of tolerance than normal, but not by much. I mean, frankly, he's not put into slavery again, because he actually starts out as a freed slave who is discovered that he has magical talent, and he's freed and becomes what he now does. Anyway, as the Sorcerer Royal, he is tasked with finding out why magic in England is starting to somehow become less powerful or fade away. Obviously he has to see the fairies to do so. On his way to see the fairies in Fairyland at the start of the book, he does a favour for a friend and visits a school for run by females, for females. And whilst he's there giving this little lecture, which he's not that keen on giving because he's not a confident, forward person, he's quite a nervous person, but he still does it anyway, he bumps into a particular woman there who is a little bit different from what the rest of them are. The rest are all quite passive and submissive, due to obviously that's what you kind of have to be to manage. But this woman, however, is different to that. She's very forward and she can think on her feet a lot more, and frankly she's equal to Zacharias, and indeed virtually any other member of the magician's world. And this presents problems because when you have a strong, intelligent woman in a world inhabited by sexist white men, problems ensue because they obviously like their positions of power, which they've had for ages, which they inherited, and then suddenly, people are challenging the status quo. Yeah, this doesn't go down well with people, mostly. There are a few that are open-minded, but unfortunately, it's always the minority, which are quite often the, unfortunate case of being racist, sexist, and so on. And that is indeed the case in this novel. And from this point where Zacharias meets his character, they go off together, and the rest of the book happens. I don't want to go into any more detail because it'll spoil the plot, but it's well written, fun, interesting world, and great characters. So, the issues that the book deals with are, unsurprisingly, racism for one. Zacharias is the first black royal sorcerer. As I said, he's tolerated but he's still not liked because he holds a position above many other white men who have inherited their power just because of their birth. This is not a good thing for anybody, frankly, as far as the white men are concerned, because they are all racist, and you can insert your choice of swear word here, that is your choice. And they are not happy with him, so they make it as hard as they can for him, and they would like to get him out of the job, or preferably out of life if the opportunity comes up. So, they can then have a white sorcerer, royal sorcerer, and this is problematic. It's dealt with in a way that is both quite personal but also quite light-hearted, considering the subject matter. You might expect, considering what's going on in the world at the moment, this to be quite resonant. It is, but it doesn't deal with it in a heavy-handed, dark manner. It's slightly lighter. You can read it without really getting too bogged down in the political side of it, although obviously you can if you want to, and indeed it's hard not to think about current world events whilst reading about this, because it does resonate strangely for me at the moment with that. It's purely coincidental the time that I've read this. And overall, this is dealt with interesting and curious manner. The second topic is, of course, sexism in the book. Females in this world are, like they were really at the time, considered often too weak and feeble to do anything too intellectual or too, demanding of them. The female mind is too basically weak and easily broken. So, females have to do sort of fairly minor things, like obviously bringing up children and such. But the people thinking these things are, unsurprisingly, as I've said several times in this video already, white male men, often older white male men. So, this is a patriarchy. They don't like the fact that people are challenging them because, frankly, they don't have the intelligence and the integrity to deal with it. Whereas all the women in the book actually are more than intelligent enough and easily can run rings around all of these white men if given the chance. And indeed, that's what the book is about. It's about challenging the belief system, not necessarily in a really blatant way, but it certainly does do it in a slightly more lighter way, and it does question things, which I think was really interesting, and it brings humour to it as well. So it's not really hard going, it's lighter but still meaningful. And the third topic of the book is indeed dealt with in this more light-hearted way, and that is the class system, because all the magic users, magicians, are almost entirely upper class. They like their positions of upper class, which they have been brought into from upbringing and birth. Mostly, there are a few exceptions to this, one of them being the Sorcerer Royal, and this brings the questions of what can you achieve in society depending on where you have come from. A lot of the magicians think that your position when you start out in life determines where you can end up in life. But it's actually not. Obviously, as we know, the role you play in society is based on what role you are capable of playing. If you can do a role, then do that role. Don't let the fact that you may have been brought up in relatively minor, sort of poor way, or whatever the book may talk about, and indeed obviously obviously fantasy ways. Don't let that determine what you are. Think for yourself, and you can be what you want to be in life. If you want to be something more significant and play an important role in society and help other people, you can. This is not based on the fact that you are somehow, born in this role as, this upper class, gentrified way. That's a load of rubbish, personally. And indeed, the book is echoing my way of thinking, and that's why I really like this book, because this book very much echoes my belief, that I don't like racism, I don't like sexism, and I don't like the class system particularly. This book is obviously delving into all three and deals with them in an interesting way, and is light-hearted. I try to be light-hearted, so this book resonates with me more than I actually thought it would do. And overall, this is both a really good fantasy novel, which deals in quite deep and can be dark topics. However, it always has a light heart to it, and it's relatively easy to read because of it. Yes, the pacing can sometimes be a little bit odd, I will admit, as a mild flaw, but it's generally pretty good though, because it doesn't dwell on anything too long. It talks about all the issues in a interesting and relevant manner without glossing over anything that needs to be glossed over. And overall, I would highly recommend this novel if this sounds like a novel that you want, because it's basically a fairly fast, fun read with deeper meanings in it, and with a lot of comedy and a lot of lightheartedness and optimism for the future, which I would highly recommend overall. And with that said, that is actually it for this book. If you've read this book, or indeed have read anything similar to it that you think I might enjoy, then please leave a comment and we can have a talk about it. I'm always open for new authors and new genres and such, obviously. All my social media links can be found in the description box below. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another time. Bye for now.